Black Lizard books. Hard-boiled crime, noir, pulp, intensity. Hi, I'm Gary Lovisi, and we're going to look at Black Lizard books, the original series from Creative Arts Book Company in the 1980s. This is the second of two excursions into Black Lizard books. The first one was in episode 89, just before this one, and this is episode 90. We're going to look at this time at the books that came out in, the later books that came out in 87, 88, and 89. Most of them had black spines, and you'll see these here. We're also going to take a look at some of the hardcovers and the two trade paperbacks, the anthologies. So we're going to take a look at those in a minute. But before we do, I want to just take a look at the, there's one of the catalogs that I have. This is a catalog from spring 1987. And at the time, Barry Gifford, who was helping Don Ellis was the creator of the Creative Arts Book Company. They started in 1976, and in 1978 they began Black Lizard books. I have most of the books, and I'm going to show most of them. There are two that I do not have, so I'm going to just show them from the catalog. The two that I don't have is The Damned Don't Die by Jim Nisbet, which is a paperback. I have his two hardcovers, but I don't have this paperback. And the other one is the Gertrude Stein book, Blood on the Dining Room Floor, which is a trade paperback or digest size. That I do not have. So those I won't be able to show you, but they're in the Black Lizard series. And then in the catalog, of course, I showed this in the previous episode. The catalog has, along with the Creative Arts Book Company books, it has various Black Lizard books that they published. And then these are the other books in the company. So I just want to read to you a letter from Barry Gifford. This is actually two letters that he sent me back in, first one is from March 2nd, 1987. It says, Dear Gary, thanks for sending your magazine, which is Paperback Parade, and the interest in Black Lizard books. If you'd like to write up an article on the press, fine. Briefly, Don Ellis and I co-founded Creative Arts Book Company in 1976. Creative Arts is Black Lizard's parent company. In 1985, I became exclusively executive editor of Black Lizard books, and have given full attention to the imprint since that time. The earliest Black Lizard titles were The Straight Man by Kent Nelson, which is a pseudonym of Barry Gifford, and Blood on the Dining Room Floor by Gertrude Stein, which is the book that I just showed you from the catalog. Then in '84, I started publishing the first of 13 titles by Jim Thompson. We now have under contract and published or about to publish novels by Thompson, David Goodis, Charles Willeford, Harry Whittington, Jim Nesbitt, Eric Knight, Dan J. Marlowe, Bill Pronzini, Helen Nielsen, Frederick Brown, Paul Kane, and numerous others. We are issuing 20 titles per year at present, not including the Black Lizard Anthology of Crime Fiction, edited by Ed Gorman, scheduled for June 1987. The anthology includes work by Jim Thompson, Harlan Ellison, Joe Gores, John Lutz, Lauren Estelman, William Campbell Galt, and others. Black Lizard Books is a separate entity from Creative Arts, and at the present we are distributed by California Book Company. Our books get reviewed in most major journals, even though they are mass market sized paperbacks at $3.95. Newsweek, The Village Voice, New York Times, Washington Post, etc. have all featured our titles. Amazing. If you need more info from me, let me know. Did you know that even some rare book dealers offer our titles just because they are so enamored of them? It's very gratifying to have earned that kind of respect. That's true. In the 80s, rare book dealers were selling Black Lizard books, and they were offering them as adjuncts to the hard-boiled crime books, the vintage paperback originals that these books reprint as a current and new version of those classic books, and as a being new, they were in better condition at that time, and than the vintage paperbacks, which sometimes were very expensive and also not sometimes in great condition. But people wanted to read these books, and the only way you could read them at that time was to get a vintage paperback wherever you could find it, if you were lucky enough to get one, or at this time in the 80s with Black Lizard books. Later in March, Barry wrote me, he says, "I'm sorry, at the present moment I'm really too busy to contribute an article or answer lots of questions," because I asked him if he would do an article. I believe that he did, but I'm not sure. That was 30 years ago. I'm not sure about the early issues of Paperback Parade, but he continued, "However, I'm enclosing several covers for you, and I'll tell you the following. Our average print run is 10,000 copies for first printings. We like to keep all titles in print, so virtually all of them are reprinted once stock runs low. We're up to 20 titles a year now, with plans to expand further. Our first hardcover original will be Lethal Injection by Jim Nesbitt, and I'll have that, I'll show you later. Due out late this year, early next, more Goodis, Whittington, and others coming up. Many movie options, including all of the Thompsons, just mentioned authors upcoming, not titles. Other larger publishers have already jumped on the bandwagon and are rating us as we correspond. That's why I'm slightly reticent to discuss the titles in too much detail. Good luck and thanks for your interest as always, Barry Gifford." Barry's a great guy, and he was a seminal force in hard-boiled crime publishing and in the Black Lizard books. Many of the books have introductions by Barry Gifford, and they also have afterwards by afterwards by Geoffrey O'Brien, who wrote Hard-Boiled America, and Geoffrey is a expert on hard-boiled crime fiction, as is Barry. So the two of them really were a great creative team to do Black Lizard books. And now, without further ado, I'm going to go through the Black Lizard books that I have. I think I have almost all of them. I am missing that one Nesbitt paperback and the Gertrude Stein book, but I believe that I have all the others. I've shown many of them in the first video, so in this one we're going to start off with the books from 1987. And we have one Jim Thompson that remains, Cropper's Cabin. We have David Goodis, Street of No Return. We have Harry Whittington's incredible hard crime thriller, A Ticket to Hell. Cropper's Cabin was, of course, a Lion book, paperback original. Street of No Return was a gold medal paperback original, as was A Ticket to Hell. The Devil Wears Wings, Harry Whittington. His Name Was Death, Frederick Brown. And The Far Cry, Frederick Brown. Again, all of these covers that you're going to see are by Kerwin. Kerwin became the Black Lizard artist. The first three books were done by first three books in '84 were done by Nancy McGregor, three Jim Thompson books, and then everything since then, the covers were done by Kerwin. And continuing on in 1987, Seven Slayers by Paul Kane and Fast One by Paul Kane. Two incredible hard crime novels reprinted from the Avon books. Coffin and Company by Najami Simon is an original, a paperback original, continues the adventures of Crawford N. Johnson and Gravedigger Jones, created by Chester Himes, a Black Lizard original. This is the Chester Himes books are great, incredible stories, and this is a really good sequel to them. And then in 1987, you also had Charles Willeford, which you had Pickup, which was a reprint of a Beacon book, early Beacon book, The Burnt Orange Heresy, and Cockfighter. And those are the paperbacks from 1987. Now we'll look at the ones from 1988. Start off with Harry Whittington, Fires That Destroy. I believe it was a reprint of Gold Medal. A Moment to Pray. Again, all the art is by Kerwin. Lionel White, great author. As far as I know, they only did one Lionel White book. This is The Killing. Terrific book. They should have done some others. As far as I know, they only did one Steve Fisher. I Wake Up Screaming. Dan J. Marlowe is Pete Karma, Private Eye. And that's Strong Arm. And Dan J. Marlowe again, The Vengeance Man. Those are the two Dan J. Marlowes as far as I know. Peter Rabe was a terrific hard crime author, a staple at Gold Medal Books, and these three are reprints of Gold Medal. The Out is Death, Kill the Boss Goodbye by Peter Rabe, and Dig My Grave Deep by Peter Rabe. Three classic Peter Rabe books. Bill Pronzini is a great author, California author, and he wrote, contributed to the series Masks, and he did one, The Running of Beasts, with Barry Malzberg, Bill Pronzini and Barry Malzberg. This is from 1988. It was originally a 1976 novel. John Lutz. As far as I know, there was one John Lutz book. This was a reprint from 1971, and this is The Truth of the Matter, 1988. Helen Nielsen, Sing Me a Murder. And Murray Sinclair did two books in the paperbacks, but he did one also in the hardcover. He did Goodbye L.A. was a hardcover, which I'll show you in a minute, but he did two paperbacks for Black Lizard, Only in L.A. and Tough Luck L.A., Murray Sinclair. And the last one, Roger L. Simon, who wrote the Moses Wine books. Great author, great writer. Dead Meat. Roger L. Simon's a sleeper in hard-boiled noir crime, and you should really definitely read his books. They're terrific. 1989, there's just 4 books as far as I can tell. The Black Mass of Brother Springer by Charles Willeford. This was a retitling of one of the early Beacon books. I can't recall the title offhand. And then there were 3 by James M. Cain, Sinful Woman, The Root of His Evil, and Jealous Woman. And these 3 Cain books were reprinted by Avon Books. I mean, they were originally vintage paperbacks from Avon Books, and these reprint those books. So there's the 1989 titles. Next, we have a few other things. Black Lizard Anthology of Crime Fiction. There were 2 of them. The Black Lizard Anthology of Crime Fiction and the second Black Lizard Anthology of Crime Fiction. They were edited by Ed Gorman. Nice substantial books, full of great authors. The first book is about 335 pages. It's from 1987. It's the first book edition, but the stories are reprints, most of them. Stories include stories by Laura Nesterman, Bill Pronzini, Harry Whittington, William Campbell Gault, Robert Randisi, John Lutz, Jim Thompson, Harlan Ellison, Dennis Lins, Max Allan Collins, Joel Hensley, Robert Edmund Alter, Wayne Dundee, Joe Lansdale, Ed Gorman, Joe Gores. It's a terrific anthology of hard crime. Nice book. And this monster is the second one is edited by Ed Gorman also. This baby comes in at a heavy 664 pages. This is the second, 1988, trade paperback. I don't believe these came out in hardcover. And table of contents, a lot of writers. I'm just going to give you a few quick names: Robert Edmund Alter, Mike Avallone, Robert Bloch, Lawrence Bloch, Ray Bradbury, Max Allan Collins, Wayne Dundee, Harlan Ellison, Lauren Estelman, Brian Garfield, William Campbell Galt, Barry Gifford, Joe Gores, Joe Hensley, Joe Lansdale, Richard Lehman, Ed McBain, Steve Mertz, William F. Nolan, Bill Pronzini, Peter Rabe, Robert Randisi, Daniel Ransom, who was Ed Gorman, Mickey Spillane, Donald Westlake, Harry Whittington, Charles Williford. A lot of great people in these books. This is 330 so pages. This is 660. So you're talking about 1,000 pages of intense, cool, great reading in these beauties. Beautiful books. Beautiful books. Black Lizard also published hardcovers, original novels in hardcover. They had Kerwin covers, and they're just beautiful books. The first one is Lethal Injection by Jim Nesbitt. Really nice. Not so common to find now. This is from 1987. And it's a picture of Jim Nesbitt. Black Lizard logo. It's one of the hardcovers. The other is Jim Nesbitt's fourth book. Actually, there were four. There were three by him. This one is from 1989, and that's Death Puppet. So as far as I know, there were 3 Jim Nesbitt books. These 2 hardcover originals and a paperback that I don't have. I haven't shown that one, so I don't have it, but I showed it in the catalog. So this is the Death Puppet from 1989. Beautiful book. Jim Nesbitt on the back. Black Lizard original. The other 2 hardcovers, there's one by Murray Sinclair, Goodbye L.A. He did 2 in paperback, and this is the 3rd one, hardcover. And it also has a letter from Black Lizard Books with it that tells you about the book and the author, and this was used for review purposes. Goodbye L.A. by Murray Sinclair. It's from 1988. And here's a picture of Murray Sinclair in the back. Black Lizard original. These books sold for $15.95, $16.95 in that area. And the 4th book, hardcover, is Low Bite by Sin Sirocco, another hard crime, mini masterpiece, with the letter from Black Lizard explaining this was enclosed in with the book. This was originally $16.95, and it's from 1989. These books are pretty nice, pretty new. I try to keep them nice. Original Black Lizard book. It's a photo of Sin Sirocco. And that's basically the group of second part of the Black Lizard books, the paperbacks, the trade paperbacks, and the hardcovers. There's probably a couple that I'm missing. I had at the last moment I found my Charles Willeford books because I had them with my Charles Willeford collection, and they weren't with the Black Lizard books. So I says, oh damn, I got to put those in there too. The other thing is that I just want to mention is that around 1990, what happened was Black Lizard was sold to Vintage Books, which is owned by Random House. And at that time, the books were reprinted in trade paperback format, larger size. The leftover books from the Black Lizard, the original Black Lizard from Creative Arts Book Company, were remaindered. And a lot of them, I remember in around 89 or 90, that they were remaindered in Walden's bookstores and some other stores, and they were sold for 49 cents. And I had a Walden's discount card along with myself and some other book friends. We would just buy up the books, and with the discount card we were paying 25 cents a book. And they were brand new, mint, and we just bought a ton of them. And the only ones that weren't available were the Jim Thompsons. Somebody had gotten to them first, and but I got many copies of every other author, and went to different Walden's bookstores, picking out what was left, and it was really cool. I had a couple of boxes of them. Unfortunately, well, I did sell a few here and there over the years for a reasonable price, and making them available. But Hurricane Sandy came and really basically wiped us out, and the books that I had, those extra copies were all destroyed, so they're all gone, and it's a shame. But it's what happened. A lot of people lost a lot of stuff in Hurricane Sandy, and all the extra Black Lizard books that I had, a couple of cases went the way of the storm. The other thing is that Vintage Books came out with reprinted all of the Black Lizard titles. They started off around 1990 with Jim Thompson, and there's two of the Jim Thompson vintage Black Lizards. You can see they used the Black Lizard logo, kind of with a little bit of the lizard, a little more stylized lizard. They use photo covers, back covers. They're very in keeping with the more modern style of crime fiction around 1990 or so. No more, making crime fiction serious literature rather than the pulp fiction that it was. You can see the difference between these covers and the pulp fiction covers of the Black Lizard books, the original Black Lizard, and the original vintage paperbacks of these books. The covers were even more pulpy, but they started out with the Jim Thompsons. Then they started doing. They continued doing all the other authors that Black Lizard published: James M. Cain, Charles Willeford, Marlowe, Whittington, all the other authors that the original Black Lizard books reprinted. Vintage Black Lizard books reprinted them. Now they were under Random House, and then eventually they kind of even they kind of ignored these original Black Lizard authors, and they concentrated on Hammett and Chandler, and that's what most of the later later vintage Black Lizard books, digests or trade paperback size, were Hammett and Chandler reprints. And so I'm out. To me, the covers are okay, photos are all right, but you can't compare with the Kerwin art. Even though I'm not a big fan of Kerwin, I thought he did an adequate job. He did a lot of covers. He was a busy man. He had a lot of work to do, and he was illustrating a lot of books. But he did adequately well. But the vintage Black Lizard books, to me, leave much to be desired. But it is great to have these books printed again, available, and so for readers to read. And they're inexpensive, and you can still find them in bookstores. And can't find these, though. I don't know. Those gone the way. They were from the 80s, and they've pretty much gone away. You can find them on eBay and ABE and certain used book sites. Some of them are a little expensive, but generally they're in nice condition. You can get it for a decent price. The vintage Black Lizard from the 90s and beyond, more current, or are used, are pretty cheap. They're a couple of bucks a book. If you buy them new, at this time they were $8. This one was $10 at the time. So even that's not prohibitive for somebody who wants to read good hard crime fiction. If you can't get the original vintage paperback original from Lion Books or Avon or Beacon Books from the 1950s, then you could get the great classic Black Lizard book from Black Lizard in the 1980s, or these. Anyway,
am I mistaken, or didn't you tell me that the original Black Lizard again did another line after they saw the...
Yes. You got a good point there. It is. They did a group of books called Saturday Night Specials. I think there were 4 of them. Those I don't have. I'm not sure if they were part of the original Black Lizard series. I mean, they were part of the original Black Lizard series, but they were a little separate, their own series, Saturday Night Special series. I think they had they had a special logo, and but those I don't have. So I don't know if those, I don't even know if those ever came out. They may have been. They're shown in a catalog that lists books near the end of the Black Lizard run, around 89 or 90. And there were some books that, like Black Wings Has My Angel, which by Elliot Chase, which is a terrific classic cult's hard-boiled crime, reprinted as originally a gold medal book. Very scarce and very, very desirable because people want to read it and they pay a lot of money for copies of it. And that book was supposed to be reprinted by Black Lizard in the 80s, but I don't think it ever came out, although they did have cover art for it in the catalog. Some of the other catalogs, they don't show the cover art, they just show the Black Lizard logo, because the art had not been decided upon at that time. If you look back at my previous video, you'll note, and when I'm going through some of the early catalogs, there's one where you just see the logo on the covers of the books, and that's because the cover hadn't been finalized at that point. But Saturday night specials, there were 4 of them, I believe, and I don't know. I would actually, if somebody had those books or knew about them, that would be very interesting. I'd like to know if they were ever published. And so I guess that's about it with Black Lizard books. It's great reading. The cool thing about these books is you can't go wrong with any of them. There's not a dud in the pile. I mean, they published maybe 80, 90 books, maybe 100 books, something like that. And there's nothing in any of them that's bad. It's all great stuff, terrific stuff. And you're in for a thrill if you don't know anything about them, if you haven't collected these or haven't come across them, and if you haven't read them. I mean, I know a lot of them. Some of them are reprints. The James M. Cain books, the Charles Willeford. Probably a lot of people have read the Jim Thompsons, but it's nice to have them in this series with the Kerwin covers, and it's also nice to have these books to read. They're all great reads, and even if you've read them years ago and you pick up a new, one of the original Black Lizards, and you read it, you get a nice thrill from it because it's all good stuff. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Look at the Black Lizard books. This is the part 2 of 2 parts, and hope you enjoy reading some Black Lizard books. Take them out, take a look at them if you've got them, or pick up a few and on the internet, on ABE or eBay, see what's cooking, and I know you'll enjoy them. So just want to say thanks for looking. Give us a like and a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and tell your friends and subscribe. And thanks a lot for looking. Appreciate it.